Okay, so starting at Klinkenberg, it's going to be just like doing a regular test. You'll just do file. You can hit new or open. We'll create a new one real quick. Same thing, you'd put in all your parameters that you'd want for this test. Sample ID. Length here, diameter. Again, you'll switch this to Klinkenberg here. Make sure you do that. And then make sure you put in the number of pressures. So this is the number of steps for the test. We'll put in 5. And then net confining stress. And then you can kind of double click on all these to zero them. We already have them zeroed, but you can zero them that way. And then you'll just pretty much hit measure perm. So the first one we're going to do is going to be at pretty much ambient. So we'll just get a little bit of a flow here. I like to be around 2 cc's a second for my first one. So for Klinkenberg, you will keep the same flow rate for every single step. You're just going to be increasing the back pressure and increasing the inlet pressure, but keeping the flow rate the same. Permeability should go down with increased pressure. So the perm is going to go down, 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 down with each step increasing, and then you're going to graph those, and then you'll get an absolute permeability. And that's what Klinkenberg is. So right now you can see we're at like 5. That's a little bit high. So we're going to actually just back this off slightly. So when doing a Klinkenberg test, the most important thing is to make small adjustments in weight. So it can take a lot of time for each step, but small adjustment weight, because it takes time to actually stabilize. So we're at 3.3. Bring it down just a tad. So I'm looking at the flow rate here and here to see. So like I said, we kind of want to be around 2, but this is a pretty permeable sample. So as you can see here, we'll kind of wait for this and see what it stabilizes at. This might be okay for a demonstration. Our differential pressure is only 0.2. Like I said, it's a pretty permeable sample. So if we think this is okay, which it seems to be pretty okay, we're going to hit proceed to next pressure. So we'll hit that. It's going to add another line here for step 2. And then now it's going to be currently measuring now for step 2. So step 1 was at ambient. We're going to add a little bit of back pressure. So you're going to turn this slightly, and you'll kind of feel a little bit of a resistance when it actually starts to compress because it's loose right now. And you'll kind of just feel it. And you probably don't need much. And again, you'll make small adjustments and then wait again. So increasing this back pressure is going to drop the flow. As you can see, it's already dropped it down. You can look at your voltages and you can look at the flow here and here, and you can kind of determine that it's dropping. So obviously, if we increase the back pressure, the restriction, we need to increase the flow or the inlet pressure. So you're going to toggle these back and forth. As you can see, we're already at like 2 psi or so, which is obviously still very low, but the first one was at 0, so. And right now, I'll probably just increase this low pressure and try to get back to our 2.3 cc's a second. So now you can see our flow is actually, it's up. It's not dropping anymore as fast. So again, 2.4, we're getting pretty close. We'll let this stabilize and see what it does. So once you get pretty close, this is where we're going to make a lot of fine-tune adjustments. And our perm seems pretty stable. So again, if you were doing a real test, you might want to take a little bit more time. It still looks like it's floating a little bit, but for the sake of this, we're just going to go to the next pressure here. So again, this is step 3. We're going to increase your back pressure and increase your inlet pressure. We're already at 18 psi, so we can probably do one more step with this, but then you would switch to your high after that. So we'll give this a little half turn maybe. And this should drop the flow way down. And then, like I said, so you can kind of just increase this as well. So we're still going to increase. Again, keep the flows the same. As you can see now, the inlet pressure just went to white instead of red. That means it's actually within range. This is 0 to 500. So anything on the lower end of these, that means it's not accurate or as accurate. It'll still read fine, but and we might be flowing now. There we go. Probably have to back this off. Like I said, you can back this off or you can give this like a little bit of a turn here. Give this just a little hair of a turn. You can see how much that's dropped that. So that was probably actually a little too much. So we're going to have to do a very small little turn here, like that. So we probably need to do, still dropping, it's dropping very slowly. I doubt it's going to get down to 2.3. Well, it's going down pretty quick still. Kind of see where the stabilizes at. So again, flow is it's dropping down, but the DP is also going down too. So it's somewhat linear for both. And that's why your perm will kind of sit, because obviously as they both go down the permeability, now that equation goes down as well. So you do want to wait for stability, but you kind of want to look at your perm too. So again, a Klinkenberg test it could take you an hour to do each step if you were really meticulous about it. And then it also really depends on the sample itself. But again, it seems to be the same perm though. So we'll jump to the next step. So step 4, same thing, we're going to give it a little bit of turn. You might as well just jump ahead. If you give this a full turn or a half turn, you're going to at least do that here. So again, for the sake of this test, I'm just looking at the perm here, but if it's kind of stable as well, you can go to the next step. And then we're going to actually switch here to our high. If you look at your last step, so step 4, we know we had 50 psi. So we know we need to go to at least, you're going to leave your back pressure the same, but you know you have to go to at least 50 or more for your inlet pressure here. Obviously, we don't want to crank this up to 50 just because your flow meters are still reading. We don't want to oversaturate them. So after making a few adjustments, we're kind of just waiting to see where we stop at. So again, this regulator and this regulator are very similar regulators, and they're a higher range. So even the smallest increment's going to change it a lot. This one's a little bit more fine-tuned. So again, we're trying to get to like 2 points. 2.3 was our very first one, but 2.22 cc's. We'll let this stabilize and see what it looks like. So it kind of looks like we're going to be 1670. This is the last step. If we hit proceed to next, it should end it. So that would be the end of the test. If you look now, you have a yes and a no box right here on all these. You can hit, like if you didn't want this step, you could just say no, and it wouldn't accept it into this file. We're going to bring them all down into this chart down here. And actually, step 2 and 3 have the same perm. You could potentially, like, if you didn't want one of these. So if you look here, you have flow stability, this graph that we were looking at. If you look at Klinkenberg, it's going to graph it automatically for you. And then this point right here, like if you were to graph it on your own, this would be your K infinity or your absolute permeability. For the sake of this, I'm just going to leave them all in there. And essentially, you're going to click on 1, you'll hit accept, and then 2, you'll hit accept, 3, accept, because we want all these. And then if you look down in here, you have your K infinity. So our K infinity is 666.008, and it shows it for all of them. And then when you were done with your test, you'd actually hit your same thing, your HTML report. But that's how you'd run a Klinkenberg test. So when you're done with the test, you obviously want to take your pore pressure off. So this is your pore pressure. The first thing you're going to do is actually take this off. Don't drop your BPR, your back pressure yet. Leave this there and bring this down. So slowly bring this down. And again, you don't want to oversaturate the flow meter. So if you just kind of slowly bring it down. It's not going to hurt it to just bring it down completely. So I'm just looking at the pressure there. These are self-venting, so it's going to actually release the gas from the regulator itself. So it's loose. We know it's pretty much going to go down to 0. And then if you hit off, you don't have to do this, but if you hit off, and then now you can bring this back all the way to where it's loose. And then the next thing you're going to do is we have this valve open. We're going to actually close this valve again so it doesn't just dump that pressure. We'll close this, and then you're going to open 2 here. Never open this with pressure on there. You never want to open this because that 2000 is going to go up, and this is not designed for 2000. So close that. You'll open this. You'll see it drop slightly. And then once that's there, you're going to slowly open this valve. And this is going to release this pressure. So we'll leave that turned off all the way. We know we don't have pressure here. Once we don't have pressure here, you can actually open this up. So now this is open, and this is open, and this is open, and this is that vent, or open. It should drain back into here, which is what we want it to do. Even if there's fluid here, you could still now take out your core itself. And you're going to take it out the same way you put it in. You're just going to screw this off. I like to take it and set it to the side now, because this is, once you've squeezed that, you have to kind of pull this down a little. And then there's our sample. And the same thing, you would take this. Sometimes it's not that easy, and sometimes I'll actually turn this down, and that will force this out. And then, like I said, eventually this is going to go down